So I'm here with Melissa today, and this is part of Vitality Vault because we have a couple of them, and Vitality Vault on the road. So you're here at the Center for, I get it wrong all the time.
It's a lot to say. The perinatal, mood, and anxiety disorders.
Right. You're a therapist here, right?
Yeah, I'm an LCSW.
And that means?
Licensed clinical social worker.
Okay.
So we do psychotherapy.
And when I was talking to Lisa about talking to you, not that doesn't interest me, it does, but you also own restaurants.
Surf Taco, yeah.
How many restaurants do you have?
So we had several. I just got, my husband was just saying, it's not that. I believe we have 9 in New Jersey.
Do you really?
Yeah.
And when did that start?
2000. Actually, 2001.
So
2000, we broke ground.
And it's you and your husband?
Yeah.
And
so
is he there every day, all day?
He is Taco Bob. He's Rob, and he's the main boss.
Okay. And so you guys started this, had you owned restaurants before? Because restaurants, I have lots of clients. I don't deal with restaurants or retail.
Okay.
Because I found it to be, the overhead's so low. It is, I think you're either you love the restaurant business or you don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you love it.
Yeah.
Do you work there in the restaurants as well?
So I did. My history is that my husband and I both always worked with food. I worked at Jersey Mike's for 4 years, and I loved food. He worked for Rich's Ice Cream for years and years and just loved food and customer service and, just as kids.
Right.
So we always loved food. And that was always I waitressed at Howard Johnson's and Jack Baker's and Bayside Cafe, Lavalette, a million different places, all through college and high school. But we always thought we wanted to do something with food, but it was just wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool to do something with food? But so just to go back, I was more okay, I know I want to be a therapist. I want to be a social worker. I want to do something with psychology. I want to help people. I worked for Ben & Jerry's for a while, and I just loved that whole model of giving back to the communities. But that you could also be doing something with food.
And when you worked for a place like Ben & Jerry's, you worked in the ice cream shop or did you
always
really?
Just service, nothing corporate.
But customer service is everything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who own business, especially brick and mortars and their service customer facing, they don't understand that you could have every bell and whistle in the world, but if you have shitty customer service, people aren't going back because they can go to places that make them feel good.
Yeah. The idea of when people walk in the door in the restaurant, you want them to feel like they're home, like they're coming home. And that was our first, this is their living room. I think that started, Jersey Mike's was a big part of that, but also Ben & Jerry's was very much, this is an indulgence. And treat your customers as such.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and the money that you went and worked for and spending it at our place.
Yeah.
People forget that and I think it's easy to forget when you're in the weeds and you're looking at the bottom line and how much you sold and then your employees don't show up. And it's very easy to get caught in that because you still have to do that.
Yeah.
But the experience for the customer, you can do all that all day long and be perfect at it. But if you have crappy customer service, nobody's coming in the door. So how does something? So how do you go from? Which seems like a natural progression, but you want to be a therapist too,
right? So when we were, we met in New Jersey, and we were here, and we were both always all through college working with food. He was doing philosophy and psychology, and I was going for psych and just liberal arts educations. So we moved out west. We were we wanted to do some sort of community. Well, we had this common interest of wanting to move to California. We also had a friend who was doing community service in California. So it was Rob loved the idea of community service, a gap year kind of after college.
Oh, I heard community service. I mean, because he was in prison?
Oh, no, community service Peace Corps.
Oh, okay.
AmeriCorps, or JVC, the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, where you teach for America. So I'm going back to the 90s. So this was a thing.
Right.
Well, Peace Corps was always a thing, but then Clinton started AmeriCorps. So you, instead of going to Peace Corps for 2 years, which is something I always wanted to do.
I always wanted to do that, but I never wanted to do it alone. Mm-hmm. And after we graduated college, our other friends, my friend Judy said she would always go with me. We graduated college, and she's like, yeah, no. And I was like, well, I'm not going to come by myself.
Yeah.
So you went out?
So our friend was doing it in Sacramento. He was working with, it wasn't Teach for America, but he was doing AmeriCorps. So there's Peace Corps 2 years outside of the U.S. AmeriCorps is 1 year in the U.S., committing to working with underprivileged communities. But there's a bunch of different categories, like children, families. You could work on Native American Indian reservations. So all different sorts of things you could do. And then you get a stipend at the end that you could put towards grad school, like $5,000 or something.
Right.
I don't even remember. So we were like, this is a win-win-win. So we checked all the boxes. We were looking at California, St. Louis Obispo, and LA. We ended up getting placed together in LA. Worked for 4-H, which you think of 4-H is like
country. The horsies and the
so it was
piggies
in the inner city. It's really, really cool. So while we were there, I went back to grad school after our year of community service, I went back to school for social work to get my LCSW. And Rob I was working at Ben & Jerry's. We had a million jobs, as you can imagine. He was working at a restaurant. So started thinking about business school, went back for his MBA. In the course of the MBA, we had the big, let's do subs in California, because we were big Jersey Mike's people. But at the time, there were no subs in Southern California.
When did Jersey Mike's... I don't remember Jersey Mike's growing up in New Jersey. When did they start? Were they always around? And I just kind of...
It was like 1956.
Really?
Yeah.
How the hell did I miss that? I just started...
I might be off on that. But anyway, yeah, it's been around a long time.
Wow.
So they started in Point Pleasant. So we also love Point Pleasant, and we were from Toms River, but we were living in Point Pleasant when we moved back. And that was always like Bob Hoffman from Hoffman's Ice Cream, and Peter at Jersey Mike's. It was always just like this, and we're like Rob and Melissa from Surf Taco. But so we thought, let's do subs. So Rob was going for his MBA, and his whole entire senior year was surf and subs. He was going to do subs. So we were going to figure it out, get the loan, do some sort of sub shop in California. And for a million reasons, different reasons, couldn't get the loan. No one wanted to bet on him and I with all we owned was a sofa.
Right.
We couldn't get sort of any headway going with it. So when we were toying with moving back to New Jersey, we were... had a little bit of a light bulb moment in Point Pleasant over by the Brave New World where Surf Taco Point Pleasant is. We were like, there's no sub shops out here. What if we still did a food concept? Mm-hmm. But obviously we couldn't do subs in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. What if we did tacos? Which is, living in Southern California, all we ate were tacos. Fish tacos.
But not a big deal out here, or not as common.
Yeah, in 2000 it was not common at all. It was Taco Bell.
Right.
But so that's sort of in a nutshell. So we moved back. We found this vitamin shop next to Brave New World that was empty for 3 years. The rent was nothing. They wanted nothing from us. And Rob's dad's a civil engineer, and they both just literally hammered and nails this vitamin shop into a taco concept. I was doing the social work thing out in LA, and when we moved back, I quickly got a job at, which, it wasn't hard as a social worker, at RWJ at Rutgers, working with kids in a psychiatric hospital. Mm-hmm. So it was just crazy. We had an aunt who gifted us this little bungalow in Lavalette to stay for the winter.
So all the pieces started falling into place.
Yeah, so we started this in October of 2000, and we opened Memorial Day 2001. So we just celebrated 24 years or 23 years.
So and again, it's the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Which statistically you're going to fail.
I know. So
how did you not fail? Well, I mean, there are people out there listening to us. Yeah. How did you not fail? And I know it's 2024, we're talking 24 years later, but you have 9 of them. So you've changed your approach, obviously.
Because we had more that we had to close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some failed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially through COVID. COVID was sort of the start of the end of several of them. Just very, very hard. But so the first thing I go to is people. So we surrounded ourselves. We just had such great young people who just embraced the concepts. They just loved it. I mean, it was like lightning in a bottle, Rob would say. It was just like magic. Everybody loved it. It was new. It was exciting. It was families. The price point is low, so people could come with their families. They'd bring in a 6-pack of beer. People barefoot off the beach. It definitely had that, everyone loves that California vibe.
Yep.
Definitely had that. But I think back to the young people that we started working with. I still can see them. They're all like, I see them around town now, like with kids. Mm-hmm. They're like in their 30s. But like the first jobs, like 14, 15, 16-year-olds, we had such a good, we say good food, good people, good vibe. It was just such a good vibe of individuals. We had family help us. Like I said, the food, we didn't know much. I mean, our first like produce order was like 2 dollies of food. It was like a case of tomatoes, a couple cases of lettuce. I mean, we blew through food just right off the bat.
So you immediately were successful.
It was. We immediately was successful, and it was like we didn't even know, you didn't which way was up at that point.
Not what you didn't know, and sometimes it's the best thing because you don't stop yourself. Well, wait, we have to have this perfect and that perfect. Sometimes you just go, right?
Yeah.
And you'll learn along the way. Yeah. But But luck, don't you think luck has something to do with it? Because you're hiring 15, 16-year-olds, and that's a lot to put on a 15, 16-year-old. The success of your first business.
Right.
If you think about it, I'm sure you were there 24/7.
Yeah. Rob definitely was, for sure. And just wanting to be there, like not knowing any different. We didn't have a mortgage, we didn't have kids. I don't even think we had a pet at that point.
Right.
So it was just being able to really focus in on that. Was really.
So
really
how
great.
quickly did you grow?
So.
And the whole time you're working too, as a social worker.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, which was really great. It was like one of my favorite jobs. I loved it. And I was so excited to come home. I would come home and we lived right past the shop. So I would stop. I would help clean up. I would be like eating food, obviously, constantly. But it was such a great time for sure. And like I said, the community really, really, really just.
They embraced you.
It was such a. It's hard to get in touch with. It was such a, I don't know, everything just seemed easier.
It's like a lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or was everything easier back then? Or does every generation say that? I don't know.
I think one of the things I come back to sometimes is failure was not an option. Like Rob, there wasn't like he had 5 other plans. Like this was it.
So there's no safety net.
No safety net.
Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's a choice you can make, and it's probably an easier choice to make when you don't have children and a house and all that other stuff. Then you have to think about those things. But having a safety net, you make different decisions sometimes, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, because as we've gotten older, 23 years later, it's, a lot more to think about. A lot of
you have children now.
Yeah. And we have a lot of employees that, we feel very responsible for and grateful for and, want to do well by them and give them opportunities to grow within, And your husband manages all that? Are you involved in any of that? So I do some of we have a small foundation, Surf Taco Cares, and mostly Veronica and Marissa, Rob's corporate staff, run that. But I help them with that piece of, going to fundraisers and people approach me about volunteering or, donating food for this fundraiser or that fundraiser. And we're very, very supportive of that. So I help with that. But, he's got such good help. We also have Brian. We have another, I want to call him like a director of operations. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Rob. And then we have managers, like we have general managers who run the shops, and then we, manage and support them. So by I mean Rob. Right. So, but how important are processes and systems? I mean, is that everything when you are growing? Yeah. That's not. I mean, you have 9 now. Yeah.
But you had more.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It was a lot to manage. COVID was definitely showed us a lot of things. It was hard to get a few of them back open once they shut down. So we just were like, okay, we had to move on from a few. We had Hoboken and Princeton, and we just were like, okay, I don't think these things are going to start back up. So we really looked at condensing, and you see this with Starbucks and Baja Fresh has done this, and I'm sure a lot of way bigger places than us have done this, where you shutter several so you can look inward
and
sort of
make better
refocus
right.
and yeah. So we started doing that. So that's been really helpful, having less, being able to focus in and really looking at the food and really looking at training. Like you had said, systems, really looking at systems. Mm-hmm.
And you're all just New Jersey?
Yeah, we had one in Florida. That was like we had a vision of expanding to Florida, and we opened in Jupiter, and it was great. But then we didn't quite see opportunities to move and expand in Florida, so we ended up closing that one.
And do you have any plans to expand anywhere else, or is it just
we're sort
makes
of
it easier just to keep in the state?
It does. Right now, what we're looking at is we started working on a bit of a remodel. Like if you look at the social, there's a new logo.
Okay, so you're updating.
Yeah, some new colors. So we're doing a little bit of an upgrade, and we're going to see where that takes us. It's definitely exciting. It's like breathing new energy into this brand after so many years. 23 years.
That's a lot of years. And during this time, you had children. How many children do you have?
So I have a 20-year-old and I have a 17-year-old.
Okay. And yeah. It's stressful enough having children, and then your job, and then you're building this, brand.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the, I've been able to, with my second, who has special needs, I really stepped back. And that's where we're so blessed with, Rob has Veronica, and we have Marissa now, and Brian, who've really sort of, who help him with everything, help manage everything. Because the second kid was definitely like, okay, I don't know how am I going to do this?
Right. Yeah.
So that's been really good.
That's
just having all that support.
And then now you're here at the center. So
I was home for 10 years. So I was, dabbling, helping everybody at the restaurant, but then had the kids, and then just couldn't figure out how to be working outside of the house with the kids.
And you didn't want to work in, let's say, corporate and serve taco.
So I was. Well, it's very small. So it was Rob, a director of operations, and Veronica for
9 stores
for a long time. Very small. We have Sean, and now we have Marissa, but it was always very, very small corporate. So I was always helpful in a million ways, as you can imagine. But
how did you learn to do all the things? You just teach yourself?
So the MBA, Rob's MBA from Pepperdine, really served him well. He learned a ton. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really learn it all. Like, Veronica knows a ton about the books and, comes with her own experience. And Rob is definitely like a jack of all trades. He loves the marketing. He loves, the food end. He loves the training end. But we've been able to hire people like our director of operations now. He worked for Starbucks for a long time.
Okay.
So he's, really great with training and all different sorts of skills.
So you hired people who were experienced in their discipline as opposed to trying to just...
Yeah.
So when did you, so you're home 10 years.
Yeah.
And you decide it's time to go?
I couldn't imagine how to work in the real world. Like me in the restaurant business, it was like I would help here and there. But trying to figure out how to...
I have a special needs
child
too.
Oh, okay.
So nonverbal autistic. So I understand completely.
Yes.
And I is your son autistic and you don't have to talk about it?
No, it's okay. If you saw him, you'd think he's autistic. He has a genetic syndrome called Mowat-Wilson.
Okay.
It's a sister syndrome to Angelman's, which some people have heard of.
Oh,
Angelman's.
Does he smile a lot?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a sister. It's very similar to Angelman's.
Okay.
So, if you see him on the street, you think he's autistic. He's like, always laughing and smiling.
Right.
Causing a ruckus. But so we always had really good help with him and schooling and all that. But I think I just couldn't figure out also the therapy piece. I knew, for me, getting back to work would be being a therapist. But the thought of like helping somebody else when I was really just trying to figure out how to navigate this life with this kid with special needs was a lot.
How did you, and this is personal, because how did you, because I know I was home with my son for 21 years. He's 33 now, and I haven't seen him in a while. He does not, I'm not part of his whatever world he's in, but he got to be large. Not heavy, but very tall, and I had younger children. And then he got to be aggressive. So he doesn't want to be near other people at all. Yeah. He doesn't want he doesn't want any of that stuff. So he's with his dad, and that's great, and that's fine. But during the time when I was home with him, and it was everything with how do I go to the grocery store now? How did you? So many women lose themselves.
Yeah.
You lose yourself even if you have typical neurotypical children, you know what I mean? Because you're home and you've become almost not a person anymore. I mean, mommy's wonderful. I love being mommy. But that's not just who I am.
I know. I see it all the time. I think it's so hard to maintain you. I know that I completely lost myself. I didn't know which way was up. It wasn't like I was able to like go and do yoga every day. Like I didn't know how to, I didn't prioritize myself. I was, doing laundry and this and that. And the thing with Jack is it wasn't so isolating as like, it was hard to take him to the grocery store. 'Cause he has a nice disposition.
Right.
But it was hard. I think people constantly, I'm sure you had this walking up to me, God bless you. You're amazing. I see what you're doing. So a lot of times I think it's hard to get in touch with how hard it is and was. Because it's like
just
all
do
I know.
It.
Yeah.
And it's all you know, and you have to do it. You can't be like, I'm not going to do it today.
Right. But it definitely gets you down and gets you into a place of like, it wasn't like I was like having a babysitter come over, which I could have, and like go to yoga or go do self-care. Like I didn't even understand that I was supposed to be doing self-care. It was just like, keep taking care of them.
Do you think it was because, guilt or I'm supposed to be tough? Everybody tells me how tough I am, so now I'm going to be tough.
Yes, I'm supposed to. Well, and it's, I'm a therapist, so. Well, I could see my rearing. I was raised by a caretaker who never took care of herself and just poured herself into her children.
Yes.
So I was modeled that. I talk to the moms here about that all the time. I was modeled that. So I didn't know I was supposed to be taking care of myself. I was just pouring from an empty cup all day, every day. I didn't understand that I was supposed to fill that cup.
And when did that switch? Did you make that change?
So Jack started sleeping through the night. He was about 7. And because he never slept. So like chronic sleep deprivation, which I struggle terribly now still with my memory. And I don't know if it's
you were tired.
Sleep
like you never slept.
Thing.
Would he get up and try to get out of the house in the middle of the night?
So we always had all the things.
The locks.
We had the locks and we had the half door and
but you still can't have a little kid wandering around your house in the middle of the night while you sleep. Not that that's
right. Well, so for his bedroom, we always had like a very secure bedroom where you do like the half door, like the Yankee door. But so he started sleeping through the night, and I started.
And all this while you're building Surf Taco.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so that was always like an exciting, for so long, it was just such an exciting growth phase, which was always such a positive with the other stuff. And you could see how there was a lot of opportunities for me to help with this and that, which I felt capable and able to do. It was more so how do I get back to being a therapist? Like, I don't know when that's going to happen in my life. But so he started sleeping through the night. I started feeling better. I don't remember. So it was about 2016. And it really was just so one of those like meant to be things, because I said out loud to Rob, I don't know anybody. I ran into one of our partners who had Surf Taco Jackson with us. His wife was home with the kids for years. And she said to me, it is who you know. You have to think to yourself, who is it that you know? Where is it that they're working? Think about it. There's got to be somebody in the field, like a connection that you have that you could tap into and say, hey, she was trying to relate because she was home with her kids for years and had recently gotten back into the workforce. So I was talking with Rob on the way home, and I'm like, she's telling me that it's who you know, and you really just think about who you know. And I said out loud, I don't know anybody like in this field. So Rob says to me, what about Judy Zacci, this wonderful woman who works for RWJ? She started a really amazing foundation for children and families affected by brain tumors after losing her husband to a brain tumor. So he said to me, and we had sponsored their summer camp for kids affected by brain tumors for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. It was called Camp Jinka. Okay. So sweet. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Because she was very, had this nice nonprofit. And so I reached out to her. And
were you afraid to reach out to her after being home for so long? Or you were like, nope.
Well, you know what I started doing? I always loved hospice care. I did that as an undergrad. And I started volunteering.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I had a knack for it. My dad passed. Rob's dad passed within a couple of years, and I was like, I could do this. I knew from college that I liked it. I just liked the old people. I felt like really supportive of the families. I was okay with death. Like I didn't.
Mm-hmm. You weren't like me.
Freaked out. I felt okay. Although
I got to tell you, I love old people because they have the best stories.
Yes.
And they've lived an entirely different world, like you see in the history books. And if anybody's listening to this, sit and listen and ask questions. Yes. Tell the stories. It's fascinating.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
I do that with my mom, which is hard, but the stories that she has.
Moms are hard sometimes.
Yes. But so, where was I? What was I just saying about?
You were just talking about getting it back in the workforce.
So with hospice. So I started volunteering, and just had a couple of families that reached out, and I did a couple of like home visits for hospice. Came across the ad that Lisa ran for RWJ PMAD. I don't even think it wasn't even called PMAD then.
No, I don't think it was.
It was just postpartum depression.
Right.
LCSW. And I was like, and I knew I had the connection with Judy Zacci working for RWJ. So I called her and I said, so I'm seeing this job opportunity to work with women with postpartum depression. I've been out of the workforce forever, as she, I'm sure, knew. So she was like, she said to me, I know Lisa Tremaine. I know her personally. And they had this nice connection. She had just done, I think Judy did some video work for Lisa.
Okay.
That was like one of her like side gigs was like she was producing small films.
Oh, okay.
So she put us together. I reached out to Lisa, and it was just wild.
And so how long have you been at the center?
So I started one day a week, which was perfect. I was the Friday girl, and I was like using my license. It was amazing.
This is one of the things I love about what Lisa Tremaine has created. People work when it works for them. She walks the walk, or whatever the saying is. You know what I mean?
Does. She said to me when I interviewed, I said something like, Lisa's just so hysterical, but I said something like about my resume being all over the map because, I worked with kids in juvenile hall. I worked with kids in inpatient psych. I was doing hospice work, and I had all the AmeriCorps stuff in there. And she looks down at the paper, and she's like, says something like, this is what I love about it. I love that it's all over the place. Like I was just like, oh my God, Lisa. Now thinking back, it's just so sweet. Like we had an instant connection. And like I said, I became the Friday therapist. And I think, she only had like one or two therapists at that point. But so to answer your question about like how how did I sort of come out of that, losing myself? It really started with working. It started with getting back into the workforce. Helping people. And, the foundation was wonderful, like doing fundraisers and stuff was wonderful, supporting fundraisers. But actually sitting with women and doing the therapy again, it was once a week for a couple years probably until the program grew or until I could even handle more. Because I was always that was my one day to get showered, get dressed, and go.
Oh, were you so excited?
Oh, my God, I was so excited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then, figuring out childcare, figuring out letting somebody get check off the bus, doing all that. So that really is what helped me find myself was going back to work. And I know it's so hard for so many women to get back into the workforce, but helping people just was so curing.
And because we've lost our community basis that we've had for hundreds and thousands of years, and we've lost it. We don't have it. We don't have the grandmama help next door in the same town, whatever it is, next door neighbor. I mean, maybe some people in here or there, but that's not how our community is structured anymore. The isolation is so real and so strong. So it really when going to work, it's like, I'm going on vacation. I love going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the moms always say that. They're like, well, it's actually a break.
Yes.
Yes.
It is a break.
It sounds so crazy.
Well, it's a break,
really
but
is.
You're also feeling productive. And there's something about where, I mean, as human beings, whether you're a woman or man, you want to feel you're contributing somehow to something, and you're growing and doing and learning and doing all those things. And not to say, if you're a stay-at-home mom and that's the thing that feeds your passion, go for it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's great.
Absolutely.
However, even neurologically, I know from our 20s to our 30s, our brain and body need certain things, and that changes with each generation. So I work with women which I was saying to you before, who I think I was saying to you, but they put me aside for so long. I'll get to me, but first I have to do everybody else, or I have to hang out and I have to fix and do all this. And then, the husband gets older and the kids leave and they're like, see ya. And then you're like, oh.
Yeah, who am I?
And now I'm 56. Now what?
Yeah.
And
I see the parallels when the kids go to preschool.
Yes.
And
yes.
So many, when my oldest went to college, I was having such an out-of-body experience, realizing the parallel with all these moms sending the kids to daycare and preschool. And I was like, this is just a series of loss and letting go.
And men don't feel it. And I'm not saying that they're not. We're just built differently.
Yeah. Well, we're frontline.
Yes.
We're frontline. So that loss and letting go is our, we're the one who've been holding on so tight and managing everything. So we're going to feel that a little bit more for sure. If they've maintained their day job, their identity, they're not feeling so lost when they let the kid go.
Right. So now the women that you work with here as a therapist, because I know there's many different kinds of therapists here. Lisa was showing me the sand thing.
Isn't that so cool?
I want to do it. I don't even know what it is. I looked at the, and if you're listening to this, you have a cabinet in, I guess it's a group therapy room, right?
Filled with all
and it's filled
trinkets.
With figurines and trinkets, things that you would think like little kids would play with, right? Yeah. Although they didn't look familiar to me. They were a little bit different, but I mean, little kids now, so maybe they're common. And then you open it up and you grab the ones that
resonate with you.
And then you put them in the sand.
So now Deb is our expert here.
Okay.
There's formalized training. She's formally trained to do sand. she doesn't call it sand play. She calls it sand tray. There's two different things. I guess sand play is for kids. So my understanding is that you take the figurines that mean something to you. You know, it could be, you know, there's horses, there's a coffin, there's a house, there's a shovel.
And this is for grown women.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Adults.
Yeah.
You take the figurines that resonate with you, and the sand is very soothing. You know, the actual sand, putting them in the sand. And then you interpret, and again, Deb is our expert, but you interpret the individual, you ask them to explore and interpret what they're seeing and why they chose what they chose. So it's not like a big, you're not saying to them, I want to make a psychological analysis of why you chose the horse. It's not that sort of thing. It's the individual exploring why they chose, what's resonating, why, and creating a dialogue around that.
That's amazing. I mean, I immediately saw the pig with the piglets. I was like, look at how cute. I like that. And Lisa's like, we're going to get into that one.
Well, it leads itself to stories. It leads itself to, you know, maybe that was like a part of your childhood, or maybe that was like, you know, Charlotte's Web was one of the first books you ever read. It was probably
Charlotte's Web. I loved Charlotte's Web.
And then the loss involved in that.
And look at the loss involved. And then when the little spiders fly away, and then the mom, Charlotte, dies. I'm like, I was talking about that with someone who had never heard of the story, which I do not understand at all. I thought that I spanned generations, but someone's like, I don't know. I'm like,
exposure.
And then did you also know this? Oh, this is why we're talking about it. Did you know there's a layer of our atmosphere that is just spiders?
No.
Fuck yeah. It's true.
Where is that layer?
I don't know. But all I thought of was Charlotte's Web and her babies. I'm like, maybe they went up into the layer.
Oh my God.
Isn't that gross?
Is this going to keep me up at night?
Yeah, no, it's very far away.
Oh, it's very far away? out
don't
in the
come
atmosphere?
Back down.
Okay.
But it's true.
Oh my God, that's too funny. Yeah.
That's probably why I'm like, pig, spiders, atmosphere, shit.
So you could see how that could lead to dialogue, right? Loss, fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so tell me what you did. What are you? I don't know what a social worker does. I mean, I do.
So everyone here, we're all LCSWs,
okay.
Licensed clinical social worker. So you go to graduate school for your MSW, your master's degree in social work. You sit for a licensing exam. It's a licensed clinical social worker. You're considered a psychotherapist. There's also LPCs, which is a similar grad program, but it's maybe a little more psych focused and not so much. Social work has, you could do research, you could do social policy. So we each have a little bit of a different approach. I could speak to, I do a lot of CBT. I think a lot of the therapists do, sort of as a ground, as like a framework would be cognitive behavioral therapy. You'll hear that a lot. Like that's something that your listeners would have heard of. The idea of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a common therapy used within psychotherapy, is this idea that, or the premise is that our cognitions dictate our behavior. So, for example, if I think I'm going to have a shitty day,
then you're going to have a shitty day.
Your mood, the behavior piece, will come down.
Right.
So if you think, I'm really going to make the best of this, and I'm going to try really hard to stay grounded. And if I get anxious, I'm going to do some counting. That cognition is going to lower our anxiety. Okay. So the idea the cognitive behavioral approach would be teaching strategies to one of the most common ones that I talk about is self-talk. So looking at your self-talk, things like, I can do this. I have to take it one step at a time. That's going to lower my anxiety. So that cognition is going to lower my anxiety. And that, I would call that your self-talk. So I would say, where's your self-talk right now? What language can we put around this thing that's going on? What language can we bring in to help lower your anxiety? I've done this before, and it's not going to be the end of the world if it doesn't turn out great. That language is going to help lower your anxiety. Whereas maybe you're going into it with this, I'm never going to figure this out. Like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. I'm never going to be able to get through this. If that was maybe historically what you came to therapy with we would work on, okay, that's not serving you. So what other language can we put around that? Let me breathe. Let me take this one step at a time. And then we would feel the anxiety going down.
Now, is this because dealing with women in business, I have similar conversations with them. They may have started a business and, it's not working out. They make themselves almost the victim, and then everything goes bad for me and nothing ever works out for me, and this person doesn't like me, and I tried, you know what I mean? Even within a business, and they could be successful, but a little thing, or this person, or even this comment online, immediately can take the most successful person who's had a great time, but one or two people, only women 90% of the time. It doesn't seem to matter if men say anything. You don't know what you're doing, or whatever it is, or I went to your place and you were horrible. You don't know what you're doing. Will just destroy them. And I know the women here have been diagnosed with PMADs. So this is a different conversation, but it's not a different conversation. You know what I mean? And I wonder if this, well, I don't know if you or I even know this. You may know this more than me. If this happens to men. Or is this a woman brain thing?
You mean PMADs, or you mean like a self-esteem where like one comment can knock you out?
The whole, not feeling good enough, not doing good enough. I can't do good enough. I talk to women who are afraid to take those risks again in business. Yeah. But where you guys just dove right into surf taco, not even thought, let's go, wasn't a problem.
Well, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I didn't mean to make it sound easy.
The work will always be there. Anybody who is opening any business who thinks it's going to be simple and it's not going to be a grind all the time, it's a grind. And when it gets a little calm, you better be careful. Don't get too comfortable, because that's when you have to kind of step things up a little. Yeah. But so the CBT therapy, just calm down. Is that an ongoing tools they take with them the rest of their lives?
Lifelong. So I always say with looking at one's self-talk, if we just say that, when we look at your self-talk, people will say, oh, geez, it's so negative, I can't even tell you. And then when you get into that and you try to start restructuring it, and it's a practice, so it has to happen. Every time the negative thoughts come in, you're trying to flip it. And then you see how you feel better. And then with time, and practice.
So that's like neuroplasticity. You can change, right? You can change the way you think.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I feel like that's a big, those skills, I always say to the moms, these are skills you're going to use. You're here with us. The program lasts a year, but these are skills that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Because what happens is the moms that come in, there's so much that's going on that was all here before baby. So I'll say, tell me what was present for you before baby. Was this, they'll say, oh, yes, no. A lot of these thoughts were here.
Just the baby, the hormonal change and all that just kind of brought them,
ramps everything
It 10x'd them in a bad way.
Yes. So I think that's a big part of it. When you look at self-talk, that is something that, and you look at changing the language and improving your self-talk. First, recognizing if you have negative self-talk, because you have to have an awareness of that. Because you can be walking around.
People aren't aware if they have negative self-talk.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people who are not aware that that's I have a choice in that matter.
Oh, I never even thought
I have a choice in that. It's not just like I suck. I have a choice. I can actually think something different. Yeah, you could, and you would actually feel a lot better. Like, I'm trying the best I can. You're going to feel a lot better than I suck at this.
Oh, that's
and you have a choice in that thought. So it can be habitual. This can be a pattern, habitual, that you only ever remember having negative self-talk, low self-esteem, negative self-talk.
Constant? So these people never think they're good enough. I mean, we all go through the things where we fail and we're like, oh shit, I really blew that one.
No, I don't mean, I don't even know exactly who, we're not talking about something specific.
Okay.
But anybody who has, like you were saying, a businesswoman, a fictitious figure, has a bad customer review and is beating herself up over it. So she would be having some negative self-talk.
Okay.
So the idea that you don't have to personalize that, you could think, okay, you win some, you lose some. Let me see what this person's concern was. I'll reach out to them. We'll regroup. That's going to bring your anxiety
because
down.
90% of the time when you reach out to them, they were having a real shitty day and took it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then they felt so good that you acknowledge their existence.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's all people need.
Yeah.
And now, when someone comes in the center, you have all sorts of different therapists. How do you decide who gets who?
So
or do they get everybody?
Shakira is the ringleader, because we are all a little bit different. You know, we've got some of us are a little more like boundaries, and Kim does a lot of DBT, which is dialectical, which is a lot of boundary-based work. I tend to be a little softer. Deb does the sand tray and, is very psychoeducational. So Shakira is... we also have Hannah now. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. So in the last year, I guess about in the last 6 months to a year, we hired Hannah. Lisa hired Hannah, who's an incredible RN, who does a lot of the intakes. And between her and Shakira, they look at what therapist do we think would be a good fit for this mom.
Okay.
Yeah, because we are a little different. But, we have all the same training. But, so much of your personality does come through.
Oh, sure.
So that's
so it probably after a while becomes, oh yeah, that would be perfect for her. She'd be perfect for that.
This is a Melissa client. This is a Deb client. Yeah.
And do all of the clients there? You mentioned a year. They all stay here a year.
Yeah. So the program runs for a year. So we follow the moms through the baby's first year. Okay. Yeah. Or if there's a loss, we can follow them for a year.
So what if a mom shows up and her kid's like 6 months old?
It's tough. We try to honor that year, but we start off the therapy with the language of, we're going to be working for 6 months here. So let's really look at our goals. And we start off with that understanding that it's going to be a shorter, 6 months is a good chunk for therapy.
Oh, sure.
And then we are really good at referrals. So we're really good at, we have some great private therapists in the community that we can refer them to. So we would start out those sessions with, if you want to continue in therapy when you leave here, we'd be happy to refer you to somebody outside.
It must be hard is it hard for them to leave?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard for us.
Oh my, because then you're looking at transition is good. If you can, life is about transition. You get to points, and as I don't know how old you are, but as you get older, you start to know this is a point where I'm going to go through a transition phase. So time to do something different. I've hit this level. Now I got to move on. And I know a lot of people don't do that.
I see that with the moms.
Do they?
I do.
Yeah.
They'll get the sense, especially when their baby is a little bit, starts toddling around in the groups.
And the rest are all tiny.
They get the sense and they see the new wave of moms come in and they start to feel like,
do they feel proud of themselves?
Yes,
good. Yeah, they should. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
I've graduated. I've been through it. I'm here.
And the groups, Lisa runs the groups. They give an opportunity for the moms who've been here longer to support the new moms, which is huge. They can literally look at them and say, okay, so I was there and I'm doing so much better and this program really works.
This is such a wonderful thing. And I know they have to be referred to come here, right? Is that right? Or can anybody come here?
Yeah. Well, anybody could come. Anybody could call Hannah and say, I really need to see a therapist. This is what's going on. But a lot of our referrals come from the OBs, which is so great. Pediatricians now are doing the Edinburgh and really kind of flagging moms who are looking, like they're not feeling well emotionally. But a lot of the OBs are flagging the moms and saying, we know about this program. So that's really great. That's been so great. The referrals is, and then it's like friend of a friend, word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
The moms will say, I'm sending my sister, I'm sending my coworker.
What a gift. I mean,
it's incredible.
I feel like
it's incredible.
I wish they could have something like this for every stage of life,
Oh,
wouldn't that be amazing?
I know. I agree, because the transitions are so hard.
They're
and
so
you just
hard.
Don't see them
and if
coming.
you don't have a core group of people, I mean, I do, but they're all over the country. They don't live near me. Thus, I got on a plane 3 days ago and flew out to see one.
It.
Oh yeah, it was 2 days. I'm like, Lisa, and she's like, let's go.
Amazing.
And Judy called me today, and she's like, I'm probably going to need you. Her husband went through surgery, so she's like, I'm probably going to need you when he can be on his own. I'm like, tomorrow, call. But most people don't have that.
Well, I at one point would love to interview you on this exact, how do you maintain, and you don't have to answer this, but how do you maintain these amazing, you guys go on trips and
all
it's
the time.
Just such incredible long-term friendship. I feel like that's such an art.
We're very lucky. I know it's not common. I mean, it's extreme, our friendship. My father had the same thing.
Did he really?
Yes.
Oh,
so, but there's never anything but, I don't know how to explain it.
You guys really show up for each other.
Every time. All the time. Even if we haven't heard we have, our group text. If we haven't heard from someone in a few days, we're like, then we do our 3 off or 2 off and go, have you heard from this person? Is everything okay?
That.
Like when I came out here and I said, Lisa, and I came out here for business, but I'm in a transition phase and I needed to kind of finish a project I have been working on. I'm like, I can't do this at home and I can't do it running my other businesses.
Yeah.
Because it's not part of that. And so I told the girls what I was doing, but they still, because Lisa told me, had their little side one, is Shannon okay?
I love that.
She's like, absolutely, this is good. Yeah. So it's...
I love that. I got you off track, but
No. I think it's something... it's a smaller part, but it's the community. And we just have been able to keep it.
Yeah.
Even though we live a million miles away. And we're all over the place. Nobody's real close.
No. But you've committed to it.
Yeah.
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 That's beautiful.
It is. Okay. I think we're going to leave it on that. I think, but
ultimately,
I think ultimately it comes down to, God, it's so hokey and I hate saying it, but as women supporting women, that's all it comes down to.
Yes.
And you can't just say it. You actually have to fucking do it.
Yes.
Because people say it all day long.
Yeah.
Online is not a community. Online is social media.
Yeah.
Community is person.
Yeah.
Community is showing up for the other person, and not when it's easy for you, when the other person needs it.
Yes.
Because you can always find a reason not to do it.
Yeah.
But, And
giving women the opportunity. I mean, Lisa created this program. These women have their person. Like so many people, mom's away or they don't have a partner or their partner is not the best or, their kids are stressing them out, this or that. But they come here. It's that tribe.
Yeah. And it's funny because Lisa and I talk about it a lot. And she said, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do this, so I didn't ask permission because I didn't know I was supposed to. So I just kept doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think when we know we're like, oh, we have to ask permission, that's when we don't.
Well, she's a rebel.
Oh, yeah.
She's not
a rebel. She didn't know any better. No, I'm kidding. I love her. She's my favorite person in the world. But even with your business that you were talking about, you're like, well, we just did it.
Yeah, failure was not an option.
And sometimes you look back for 20 years and you go, oh, we actually fucking did that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
very cool. But it's usually a one day at a time thing, not a... Only when you get through it can you look back and said, oh, I did create something good.
Yeah.
Even though the whole time I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yes.
I think it's just not stopping.
Yeah. Just keep plugging away.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
This was wonderful.
It's an honor.
Yes, I will be at Surf Taco sometime.
Awesome.
Well, at least
you've got on your blue and orange. I like it.
Is it Surf Taco colors? Oh, really? I planned that. No. All right. Thank you so much.